People actually engaging in diaspora wars at this stage in the game, y'all actually deserve each other.
Let's talk about these comments. If you weren't for our work during the civil rights era, your hard work would have been done cleaning floors.
Hi lovelies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda Burrs or Belly Dirt channel. Don't forget to please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so that anytime I upload videos, you will be the first person to be notified. To my returning subscribers, to those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, and educate each and every one of us, you guys are the real MVP. So lovelies, I'm gonna be your today's host, and I have so many statistics to put up here, and we're gonna come out to talk about it. Alright lovelies, let's dive into today's video.
People actually engaging in diaspora wars at this stage in the game, y'all actually deserve each other. Between the lady that said Black Americans don't eat African food to the other lady who's calling for a boycott of African braiding shops, the comments of said videos from two random people that do not speak for an entire demographic, but folks use that as an opportunity to be xenophobic by saying that Black Americans are on EBT, or we should eat chitlins, or soul food isn't that great. Not recognizing that everybody sounds equally stupid. Because as a Black American, hearing someone say African food already canceled out the entirety of the video for me. Do we mean Senegalese food? Nigerian food? Ghanaian food? Because to not specify means that there's a level of ignorance that I don't have to dignify because I eat them all. Deny me injera? Not in this lifetime. And chitlins? Really? I'm Muslim. I've never had pork a day in my life. But the idea that you all take these white supremacist tropes to sling shit at each other when none of the demographic is winning. Like, are y'all tapped into the shit that's actually going on in the world right now? The fuck?
Let's talk about these comments. If you weren't for our work during the civil rights era, your hard work would have been done cleaning floors. First of all, when Black Americans were fighting for civil rights, Black Americans were not fighting for civil rights with Africans in mind. Black Americans were fighting for civil rights for themselves. They were not fighting for anybody else but Black Americans. And yes, the Civil Rights Act made it easier for people from other countries to come into the United States of America. Keyword, easier. Africans were already coming to the US, but in a very small number because white folks did not want people that don't look like them to come into the United States of America. Now, let's talk about the facts. The Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964. By 1964, a lot of African countries were already independent. The first African country to gain its independence was Ghana in 1957. MLK was in Ghana in 1957 to attend the Ghana Independence Day. Congo, for example, gained its independence in 1960. That's 4 years before the Civil Rights Act. Here's a fun fact. When MLK was working with JFK to push the Civil Rights Act forward, JFK was also working with Lumumba at the same time to establish the Congolese Republic and cut off colonizers at the same time. There is an iconic picture of JFK crying when he found out that Lumumba was assassinated. These people were working together at the same time to free their people. MLK was trying to free Black Americans. JFK was trying to free America from, and Lumumba was trying to free Congo from the colonizer. All three got assassinated at the same time. You see how we connected? You see how we are connected? We have always been fighting together. Always. Just because you don't know about it does not mean it's not happening.
Hey, my name is CJ, and I'm here to talk about FBAs. Functionally, they're the same thing, so you can use it interchangeably. For y'all that don't know, FBAs are a fringe group of African Americans on the internet who have a strong nationalistic tie to the American identity, and they also are highly xenophobic to other people within the African diaspora. They're a group of self-hating individuals, and it's a self-eating snake. I've been called a Tether multiple times by FBAs, even though I'm African American on both sides of my family. The leader of the FBAs is a guy by the name of Tariq Nasheed, who is a known grifter, pseudo-intellectual, and pseudo-scientist. Tariq Nasheed is known to grift to whatever is convenient for his own financial gain and does not actually care about Black liberation, Black history, or Black people. And for y'all don't know, Tariq Nasheed is also the reason why Dr. Umar got his start, but that's a whole different story for another day. You can see the obvious grift of Tariq Nasheed because not even 10 years ago, he was a self-proclaimed Pan-African and loved everybody within the diaspora. You can see Tariq Nasheed praising the founder of Chicago, who was a Haitian man, and Tariq Nasheed self-admittedly said that this man was Haitian and did a great thing, and he was great for black history and black causes. You'll see FBAs say that they only selectively support African Americans, or in their terms, FBAs, in the black diaspora movements and the movements for liberation. So you'll see a lot of FBAs tokenize people like Malcolm X, even though Malcolm X's mother was from Grenada and he was Caribbean. And speaking of Malcolm X, I want to have some quotes by Malcolm X that literally show why FBAs are antithetical to liberation and literally are just chaos agents. The first quote by Malcolm X that I want to bring up is when Malcolm X says that you cannot hate your origin as an African American, which is in Africa. Pause and read. And this is another quote by Malcolm X in which he says that you cannot hate Africa again without end up hating yourself, because they condition us to hate Africa because this is a form of self-hate. Pause and read. And the next and last quote that I want to bring up from Malcolm X, in which Malcolm X states that you cannot care about what's going on in Mississippi without caring about what's going on in the Congo, because the same systems of racist white imperialism are functioning in both of these places. You cannot separate and say that the causes of the Congo need to be put on pause because of what's going on in Mississippi. The struggle for black liberation is unifying and is unified within the diaspora because we suffer from the same exact systems. Pause and read. So this begs the question, would y'all have called Malcolm X a fake African American and called him a tether and said all of these things about him? No. Y'all only tokenize black liberation when it's convenient, when y'all can monetize off of it. You all do not actually care about studying these black radical figures. In y'all FBA's head, these black radical leaders are just single one-line punch-making people. You do not add any complexity to these people because, like I said, you all do not care about studying black radical thought in its entirety. Because if you study black radical thought in its entirety, you will finally understand that this FBA shit is some bullshit. And this is coming from an African American, again, on both sides of my family, so I wish y'all would call me a tether.
When I say we're in a severe literacy crisis and comprehension and critical thinking are skills that no longer seem to be prevalent within our society, this entire Pretendian delineation, FBA conversations online are proof of that. Actually, scary. Starting with, all black people in the world come from America, not Africa. The 1.5 billion black phenotypical Africans that make up the most diverse place on earth would like a word with you if you think that's the truth. The pseudoscience and the mental hula hoops you put in your brain to try to convince yourself you're native to here, it's never based in reality.
Excuse me, I'm fucking out of here right now.
This one is a doozy. Dude, you know nothing. You are part of the party. It's just as far-fetched for you to accept those people are Mongols. They migrated. We were here. You have mental issues. They committed genocides against us on this soil. Those were our cities, our history. We are worldwide, not just Africa. The oldest humans on the planet. America is the oldest. Only 4 million people came here. You think they bought that many Africans? It's closer to 4 million. My brother in Christ, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. When you guys are talking about humans, humanity, human migration, development of humans, phenotypes and genotypes, you need to familiarize yourself with the development and the evolution of Earth. Pangea is roughly 175 to 300 million years ago. The earliest humans, not the modern humans, earliest humans are 300,000 years ago. Do you know the difference on that timeline? So don't use an argument that we were all connected, so we're all black. That's one. Two, humans migrated out of Africa into every corner of the earth, including Europe, including Asia, and including North and South America. The people that migrated here over the Bering Strait are the indigenous people to this land. Three, don't confuse recent human migration with ancient human migration. We, the descendants of those formerly enslaved people in the Americas, have only been here for half a millennia. Humans migrated around the globe between 30 to 15,000 years ago. And when we sit here and talk about, oh, they only brought this many Africans to America, the United States of America got some of the lowest imports of West African slaves, the majority going to Brazil and South America and the Caribbean. But no one ever questions how there are over 250 million European Americans that came over on boats. You don't believe that 44 million descendants of formerly enslaved Africans could be from boats, but you believe that 250 million white people could exist here from boats. Where are the boats they came over on? No one ever asked that question because you're so hell-bent on being anti-African. That's how I know these arguments are all rooted in anti-Africanness. You conflate two different things that have nothing in common to prove a point that makes zero sense.
Oh, poor baby.
Another one said, but it's a fact that there were copper-colored tribes here before Columbus. The Choctaw and Cherokee chiefs have openly admitted this. Why would you deny our existence when it's a fact? All skin folk and kinfolk. Make a list. Make it long, family. It's time to gather the tribes. Claim your birthright. You can have the term Indian. Hebrew is the correct title. Reference Columbus or those Spaniards who came and documented the Tainos, the Arawaks, the Mayans, the natives, the Cherokees, those in North, South America, and the Caribbean, and they called them copper because native people are brown. Do you think black people own brown skin, wide noses, big lips? Do you think we're the only people on earth that look like this, that have this skin tone? There are people in India darker than me. There are people in Australia darker than me, Thailand, Japan, and especially Central and South America because they're brown people. I don't understand how you conflate two different things and you just erase an entire group of people. The Pretendians are no better than Zionists or white nationalists. It's giving delusion mixed with white supremacy, mixed with colonization, mixed with post-traumatic slave syndrome. Because what do you mean I can just call myself Hebrew? Hebrew? Pick a tribe? Afro-Indigenous people are real. They exist. Those people are African and Native. They will never deny that they're African. You people want to deny your African roots so bad, and it is the biggest form of like delusion mixed with shame, mixed with an inferiority complex, and I just can't grasp it. Lastly, these videos are to talk to my fellow Black Americans and those in the diaspora about these movements that seem to be super prevalent online and gaining the most traction. These videos are not for you to be xenophobic in my comment section. I'm talking to Africans because a lot of you guys are perpetuating the stereotype that I'm trying to fight against. So if I say in the video, this makes up an extreme minority of us, don't come in my video saying, oh, these Black Americans are all lost. Oh, these African. Why would you generalize us again when I'm explaining to you that this makes up a small minority of us? Have a good Thursday, y'all. Have a good Thursday.
A lot of our people believe they African American. A lot of our people believe they black. You don't got black skin, and nobody brought you on nobody's slave ship. So why y'all sitting up here, like I said, the reason why our people in the predicament they're in, you look at these neighborhoods around here, and you see a lot of decay, a lot of abandonment, you see a lot of poverty out here. You know why that is? You know why it is? Because our people have accepted that they're black people. And once you accept that you're a black person, that means you've accepted that you don't exist.
We've reached a concerning point in the Pretendian ADOS FBA delineation movements that are occurring in America. There was a original Black Indian, Black American conference festival that they had recently in Georgia where they cosplayed Indians wearing costumes that they bought from AliExpress or Temu to say that they were not African and that they were Indians. Now, there's a difference between this.
Living my best life. We ain't going back and forth with you natives. We ain't going back and forth with these natives.
And this. Also a difference between this.
We not black. We are natives. This our land. We don't know about the spaceships. We not from Africa. We indigenous. I need you to listen.
And this definitely a difference between this and this style of drum. The scariest thing is that these people are cosplaying Native Americans who are, one, alive and well, two, have their tribal names, their tribal customs, their languages, their dances, their music, and are still here today. Three, are Black American people dancing to hip hop, Black American music, doing Black American dances, sound like Black Americans, wearing fake headdresses and Native American costumes that they bought online to say that they're not Black African, they are Native. And the worst part is the people who perpetuate this lie and this like ideology usually look the most West African. Everybody in this clip talking about they're not African look the most African. Now, Afro-Indigenous people definitely exist. They exist in America, North America, South America, the Caribbean, Central America. They exist. I would never deny that. But those who are descendants of those who may have procreated between Africans and natives, they know what tribe they come from. Because all natives have their history, they have their language, they have their tribes, they have maps of what their tribes were. Not made up tribes, not made up history. The revisionist history that these people are perpetuating online is scary. It's scary. I'm starting to believe this is a form of mental illness, like 100% a form of mental illness to cope with the fact that we are the descendants of formerly enslaved people that come from Africa. I also think that due to the construct of colonialism and oppression and Jim Crow and everything else in this country, and America being at the forefront of the world for the last century, and Black Americans being an oppressed group in that within that country, I think that the Native Americans that we learned about in history and the Africans that we learned about in history are both conquered people who were savages, who didn't accomplish anything. But we know that not to be true. We know that Native Americans had an advanced civilization and society here. There are drawings of the original Europeans that came here and described how their cities and things were set up. There are several mounds in America that are their pyramids, structured mounds that were a part of cities. The Africans in West Africa were an advanced civilization and society. But because we're not taught about the advancements of West Africans, and because Native Americans are taught as savages, I truly believe that this delineation movement or this craziness is to say, oh, okay, we're not natives because they're not shit, and we're not African because they're not shit. We're from here. We've been here. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And those of you who are saying it with your full chest, like I said, look the most like descendants of West Africans. The most. This extreme minority within the Black American group. They're an extreme minority. And I even only made these videos the last couple of days because I feel like their videos are getting the most views and the most traction online. And I'm like, is this the CIA? Because now everyone in the world is associating all Black Americans with the FBA, the ADOS, and the original Aboriginal Pretendian movement. And that's not the scenario for all of us. And the FBA movement is a scary one because the actual term foundational Black Americans makes...
Let's get one thing straight. This idea that if it wasn't for our work during the civil rights era, we did be cleaning floors is not only arrogant and historically inaccurate, it's also deeply ungrateful and historical. That statement is often thrown out by some so-called foundational Black Americans FBAs as a way to silence or demean Africans and other members of the global Black diaspora. But let's break this down carefully. First, when black Americans were fighting for civil rights in the 1950s and 60s, they were not fighting with Africans in mind. They were not organizing for condolence people. They were not thinking about Ghana, Nigeria, or Ethiopia. They were fighting for the rights of black Americans, specifically descendants of enslaved Africans within the borders of the United States. That was their fight, and rightly so. It was a fight that has been going on since the first slave ships hit the Atlantic coast, from Nat Turner to Frederick Douglass, from Ada B. Wells to Rosa Parks. That struggle was localized. It was urgent, it was strategic, and it was by necessity domestic. And yet, some FBAs have weaponized that struggle, turning it into a currency to gatekeep who is allowed to participate in conversations about black liberation today. You will hear some of them say, "We did the work, we bleed for this country, and you all immigrants are just reaping the benefits." But here's the thing. That framing assumes that African immigrants, Caribbean immigrants, or Afro-Latinos had nothing to do with the global push for freedom, when in reality, the opposite is true. Let's go back to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Yes, that law made it easier for non-European immigrants to enter the United States. Keyword, easier. It didn't open the floodgates. It just removed the explicitly racist quotas that had made it almost impossible for people from Africa or Asia to come here. But guess what? Africans were already trying to come to the US before 1964, in very small numbers, yes, but not because they didn't want to come, it's because the US didn't want them here. Why supremacy didn't stop at the Maxwell-Dixon line? It was global, and that is what makes this whole FBA revolutionism so dangerous. It isolates the black Americans' experience from the broader global context, as if racism in Mississippi is fundamentally different from racism in the Congo, or apartheid in the South Africa, or British colonial rule in the Kenya. Let's talk about Ghana. Ghana became the first sub-Sahara African country to gain independence in 1957, and guess who was there to witness it? Martin Luther King Jr. MLK traveled to Accra to attend Ghana's independence ceremony, and he called it one of the most emotional experiences of his life. He said it reminded him of the American Revolution, except this time it was black people taking their freedom into their own hands. So even though King's work was focused on American South, he clearly understood that the liberation of black people around the world was part of the same global movement. Now let's talk about Congo. Congo gained its independence in 1960, 4 years before the Civil Rights Act. Patrice Lumumba, the country's first prime minister, was assassinated in 1961 with the backing of Belgium and tactics approval of Western powers. Why? Because he was too radical, because he wanted full sovereignty for his people, because he was a threat to white control. That assassination devastated people from the African diaspora. JFK, who had quietly supported Lumumba, reportedly wept when he found out. Now here's where it gets deep. MLK, JFK, and Lumumba, three leaders fighting different but connected battles, all assassinated within a 5-year span. Coincidence maybe, but the fact remains these men were threatening the same system. That system didn't care if you were from Atlanta, Kishia, or Boston. If you challenge white domination, you were a target. So when the FBAs act like black Americans are the only people who fought it back, the only people who bleed, the only people who organized, they are erasing the blood that was spilled in Soweto, in Port-au-Prince, in Lagos, in Kingston. They are erasing the contribution of Marcus Garvey, who was Jamaica, of Sheila Chislum, whose parents were from Barbados and Guyana, of Malcolm X, whose own mother was from Grenada. And speaking of Malcolm X, let's really talk about him, because if you truly study Malcolm X, not just the memes or the punchlines, but his full speech, his international visit, his evolution after Malcolm, then you know that Malcolm X was a Pan-Africanist to the core. He believed that struggle of black Americans were directly tied to the struggles of oppressed people all over the world. He once said, and I quote, "You can't hate African and not hate yourself. You can't hate the root of a tree and not hate the tree. You can't hate your origin and not end up hating yourself." Let that sit for a second. When FBS insult African culture, when they mock African names, when they call people leaders, they are not defending black pride. They are echoing the same anti-African propaganda that was fed to us by colonizers and slave owners. The same poison that made our ancestors ashamed of their language, their skin tone, their food, their gods. Malcolm X warned us about this. He said that hating Africa is a form of self-hate, a psychological weapon used to keep black people divided. And this is exactly what FBA ideology is doing, dividing black people along imaginary lines drawn by ships and empires. Another quote by Malcolm X: "You can't care about what is going on in Mississippi if you don't care about what is going on in the Congo." Why? Because the same colonial system, the same racial capitalism, the same police state, they exist in both places, different uniforms, same structure. And yet, FBAs will tokenize Malcolm X. They will wear his face on a t-shirt, they will post his quotes out of context, but ask them about his travels to Africa, or his meeting with Nassau and Nkrumah, or his speech before the Organization of African Unity, and suddenly they go quiet. Because they are not interested in black liberation, they are interested in black gatekeeping. Let's talk about this word Tether for a second. This law, and that is what it is used by FBAs to describe black immigrants as if being from Africa or Caribbean somehow disqualifies you from blackness. But what makes someone authentically black? Struggle, ancestry, accent. Because I have seen Nigerians out-huddle any FBA in the room. I have seen Haitians go toe-to-toe with the police in Miami. I have seen Somalia kids growing up in Minneapolis marching for George Floyd. I have seen Trinidadians organizing for Black Lives Matter. I have seen Ghanaians teaching African history to African Americans who were never taught about Reconstruction in school. So again, what makes someone real? And before anyone says, well, immigrants come here and look down on us. Yes, there are tension. Yes, anti-blackness exists in all communities. Yes, some immigrants have internalized white supremacy and come to the US thinking they are better than black Americans. That is real. But the answer to that isn't more division. It's education. It's bridge building. It's remembering that we are all fractured by the same hand. Let's pivot to Tariq for a minute because he's the architect of this whole FBA hustle. Tariq is not a historian. He's not a scholar. He's a former dating coach and pickup artist who rebranded himself as a black radical to sell DVDs. That is it. He shifts his ideology depending on what is profitable. 10 years ago, he was calling himself a Pan-Africanist and praising Haitian history. Now he's building museums that nobody asks for and collecting checks while telling black people to separate from everyone else. He's a grifter, a pseudo-intellectual, a chaos agent, and that fact he gave Dr. Omar Johnson his first platform. Well, that tells you everything you need to know. And for the record, there are real issues to discuss: reparations, wealth gaps, systemic racism, cultural erasure, but the FBA response to those issues isn't political action, it's hashtag warfare, it's Hezophobia in Dashkins is fake history repackaged as empowerment. This is the problem. FBAs don't study black radical thoughts in the eternity. They don't read Walter Rodney. They don't engage with ancestor Shako. They don't understand the revolutionary vision of the Black Panther Party, which explicitly partnered with Third World Liberation Movements. They pick one quote from Malcolm X or one clip of Dr. Claude Addison and build an entire doctrine around it. They are not historians, they are cherry pickers. So let me end this with this. To my fellow African Americans who see through this nonsense, speak up. Don't let the loudest people represent us. To my African and Caribbean siblings, we see you, we are you. Don't let the ignorance of a few define your relationship with us. And to those who still believe in FBA ideology, go read seriously, go study, start with Malcolm X biograph, and then work your way outwards. Because if you truly love black people, all black people, you will understand that FBA thinking is not liberation, it's isolation. And black liberation has never been about isolation, it's always been about connection.
And if you watch up to this extent, don't forget to please leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We are just here for educational and informative purposes. So lovelies, why not just share your thought? Subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.